The summer is on its way, and it's now time to do all of the wonderful things we love to do during the summer. Go outside, touch grass, and do everything that doesn't involve taking way too much time to cook a bunch of meals for your events, and Factor can help you out with that. Our sponsor Factor has incredible meals and is the best meal service I have ever used. The flavors are great, all the nutrition facts are laid out easy to see, and they have tons of choices to fit your goals this summer. It is everything from breakfast to dessert, low cal, bulking, protein, keto, it doesn't matter, it's there for you. They also have a ton of other wonderful options like protein shakes, juices, wellness shots, and more. In the summer, it's time to do more of the things you love and less of that you don't. And so Factor can help you out with that, with its excellent meals and time-saving strategies. So go on and head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code Bricky50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code Bricky50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, and let's get on with the content.
But freedom doesn't come free.
No! Sweet liberty!
Let me tell you, there's nothing that really warms my heart than completing an entire video script and then only finding out that the company has shot themselves in the foot basically during the entire editing process. We spend genuine weeks creating a video discussing why Helldivers has done what so many games haven't done before, utilizing their live service, and how it is so much better than the rest, and then I immediately age like milk. For the uninitiated, it would appear that PlayStation Network is requiring you to sign into Helldivers going forward in order to play the game, even if you do not have a PlayStation. If you are on Steam, you require a PSN account. Now, a large majority of this video will be said before all of this kind of stuff, and unfortunately will definitely feel perhaps mildly dated when it comes to the situation, but I do think that the discussion on the live service aspects of the game are not generally affected by this change from Sony. What Helldivers does well in terms of how it does content has nothing to do with this PSN thing, even if it is, and I use this scientifically, a bit shit. However, this is too important a discussion that we cannot simply ignore it. We will come back to this later on in the video.
Hello again. Let me clarify the situation in a little more detail regarding owners of the EOD version and access to the cooperative mode, and also other issues. First of all, PvE game mode. This is not DLC. DLC, in our understanding, is the major additions to the game, including various functionality and content that are released after the official release of the game as themed DLC pack.
Wrong!
We observe your dissatisfaction and have decided that the functionality of the PvE mode will be available for free to all owners of the EOD version of the release of the game. Now you have the opportunity to test this mode by purchasing the Unheard edition of the game. This is it for now. Please share your thoughts. Thank you.
Helldivers 2 had all the signs of being just a quick flash in the pan and then fading into relative success, but not astronomical player counts. It's very rare that any game can hit over 400,000 concurrent players and maintain that for all the normal reasons, like players wanting to move on to something else. I would have been completely fine with Helldivers getting its massive success and then going down to a concurrent of around 40,000 zing and maintaining just a solid community. But now, right now, the game still has maintained a 24-hour peak on Steam of just under 200,000 players, which is absolutely phenomenal for the title. A lot of buzz has been thrown around discussing how the game does its live service aspect, and I myself have wanted to just, throw my hat into the ring, as I have been somewhat vocal on my annoyance for corporate video game greed, but also understanding the sheer cost it takes to make these products. For a game like Helldivers to succeed, it has to be more than just a good game. That might seem like a strange thing to gloss over, as being a good game is the most fundamental part of any kind of game success, even if the Dead by Daylight players might take issue with that. But to interrogate this point further, we need to discuss what making a video game is like in 2024. Now, I am an online video game reviewer slash discussion flesh brick man. I do not know the deep inner workings of game development from a technical sense, but from a financial sense, there's a lot I've learned over my years. 3 whole caramel apples is not enough to reach the difference, and if I were to buy a 4th caramel apple, it would basically equivalent the costs, or be equivalent of the cost of the apple. Now, in general, in order to make a game that is profitable, there are a lot of factors that need to come into play at one time. Right now, there's an interesting lull in the video game space between all the various types of ratings. Right now, the AAA space is looking to sort of just implode on itself. There's a general metric for determining costs of game development. Normally, you think about $100,000 a year per person. This is very generalist and not perfect at all, but say you have a AA game studio of about 30 people. That's $3 million a year in salary alone. You know, a few people slightly under 100K, decent amount over, depending on how good your talent is and how greedy your higher ups are. Say your game takes 5 years to make, therefore that's $15 million. Probably add another million to be safe for equipment, office rent, other expenses. We haven't even talked about taxes yet. Again, huge assumption, but a 30-person dev team isn't particularly big. This relates to the AAA game industry because the size of the teams have gotten so bloated. Blizzard Entertainment recently canned their survival game that was rumored to have over 200 people on it, and that game didn't even come out. Larian Studios, makers of Baldur's Gate 3, have over 450 employees in total. The idea that charitably it costs $45 million a year to operate Larian in general is kind of jaw-dropping and still probably undershooting it. Baldur's Gate 3 is of course an exception, as it was the largest game of the year and considered one of the best games of the decade. But while some AAA studios can get away with this, From Software for example, due to the extremely cheap cost of Japanese labor in the gaming industry, for the most part, it looks like this style of game making has reached a critical mass. On the other side of the fence, you have the single A space, being the indie developers, solo devs, and teams generally under 10 people. These are a lot closer to passion projects, and while there's a very difficult uphill climb coming, the reward can be magnitudes higher than the risk. You know, on one hand, if a random single dev spends 5 years of their life making a video game as a hobby and it ships and nobody buys it, well, you know, it was kind of in their own time, it's whatever, they knew the risk, and at the end of the day, they made themselves a video game that you can say you bought on Steam. But then sometimes, random single dev person makes Lethal Company, which is a lovely thing to look at and show the strength of small developers, but that also might make you assume that these are the parts of the plane we need to reinforce. Then we have the AA industry, which many people are championing as the next major wave in gaming. Middle ground video games, games with teams of around 30 to 100 give or take, that don't blow $100 million on a marketing budget and aren't working with IPs being traded around by mega corporations like a cheap whore. The rise of this has been relatively apparent as of recently. More and more games look to be utilizing such smaller budgets and squeezing out much higher quality products. The issue came down to how you are going to monetize these games. For many of them, it's a simple $20 to $40 price tag and then you let it be. But for some, especially without the marketing budget to really pull huge numbers, they want to have a longer, more sustainable income stream, and that includes things like microtransactions, cash shops, and so forth. The problem is that you still need people working on stuff in order to maintain those cash shops, and the ability for microtransactions to work is directly tied to how big your game is. While it is true that some games can survive for a good period of time off the back of just a couple big whales, for the most part, microtransactions might just barely pay for those making the content
for the microtransactions.
This is very much the case in the AA industry, and it's not something that needs to be worried about in the AAA industry or the incredibly prestigious quadruple A industry. Apex Legends, despite being a free game, still finds a way to charge the cost of a small car every time they come out with an update. But Apex Legends is a massive game filled with whales, so it works. I can bitch and moan as much as I want about how horrendous the Call of Duty shop is, but it's there because it works.
However, we hate all these games. Maybe not literally, but goddamn, do we hate how they run their live services. It feels like we're nothing but just wallets to be opened. So I know it took me a very long time to get to this point, the point of why does Helldivers 2, despite having all of those same qualities and even breaking a major amount of live service conventions, feel like it's such a good live service game, arguably one of the best ones on the market, and does the whole thing so right. Why does this AA, bordering on AAA from a team size perspective, why does this game pull off what everyone else couldn't in the eyes of the players?
Let's get the obvious part out of the way. The game is good. The game is very good.
I didn't put shit.
Did you just shoot him? Could use some
Did you have
help.
a plan for this?
The bug. What the fuck just happened to you?
Did you know you can bleed out in this video game, you dickweed?
It cycles between a B and an A+ in almost every single aspect, from gameplay to visuals to art direction and so on. This is the hardest part about making a game, and yet is basically the most unimportant part of our whole conversation. Because if the game isn't good, it won't survive as a live service to begin with.
I know we can joke and laugh at the current live service games like League of Legends, Dead by Daylight, and Apex, and do the usual smoking duck classic gif. You're telling me these are good games, Bricky? Yeah, a little bit. Like at minimum, they provide entertainment. Maybe they're not good, but they're very entertaining. We just had a slew of games that were genuinely not good. And as much as you might hate what I just said, there's a difference between these and these.
But Helldivers, good. I know it's not a shocking opinion, but Helldivers is good. That's step one. Step two is creating a sandbox that allows for constant updates at a regular cadence. This is all a part of how you run your game and how you allow it to be sold. Creating a new SKU for a game's sales is something that requires a not insubstantial amount of dev time. A SKU in this context is a method of being able to sell an item for a game. On our side, it looks like insert money get thing, but you do need to code that. You need to code that this armor is not allowed into anyone's inventory unless they go through the channels that allow you to purchase credits and then spend credits to unlock it. Helldivers has created a SKU that allows you to purchase primarily one thing, which are the new battle passes they call war bonds. What are the things you unlock in war bonds? Armor, weapons, cosmetics, more credits, and boosters. What can you not get with these new war bonds? Stratagems, ship upgrades, new maps, new enemies, and other major game related options. I don't think Arrowhead will ever attempt to sell these, but if they do, they will need to spend dev money to make a brand new SKU for it. So it does garner a bit of confidence that these are the main things they're looking to sell, and other parts of the gameplay systems, stratagems, maps, enemies are not.
But this all comes back to the sandbox of the game. Helldivers, in a crazy way, breaks one of the most important conventions in video game microtransaction law, which is you cannot sell items that give you any kind of statistical bonus in game. Even if the bonus isn't good, it should not be sold. A lot of games did this back in the day, remembering vividly Advanced Warfare, Mass Effect 3, and Star Wars Battlefront 2. The community, rightly, turned on these ideas pretty quickly, and now it's almost entirely cosmetic. So why does Helldivers get away with this?
The game is co-op PvE and not PvP, which is a massive difference when it comes to this concept. While this isn't an excuse, it does lessen the blow. But also, the sandbox in general makes it so that the difference in items feels like it really just doesn't matter too much. Nobody cares because nobody can tell the difference. You're fighting the bots. Whether you use a shotgun, assault rifle, sniper, or grenade launcher, it doesn't really matter because each bot has a specific weakness and the enemies are the same. Does the Eruptor in the brand new pass do a great job at killing Devastators? Yeah, but the enemy variety is so high that it will naturally be mediocre at some of the other enemies. In this case, Hulks and small bots. No gun is statistically better than other guns, with a few caveats, because no gun can handle every damn enemy. The game balance of Helldivers dictates this. A primary will not kill a Bile Titan, and even if it could, it probably won't kill the tiny hunters running you down as effectively. This is the exact same thing for the armor.
In all honesty, the armor in Helldivers kind of sucks balls. The effects it gives you are normally very bad, and so all that matters is the look and speed of it at the end of the day. Grenade's main issue is closing holes and destroying bot factories, so there isn't huge variety there either, and you can only use one booster at a time.
The reason Helldivers gets away with all of this is because they aren't interesting or different enough to matter. In a way, I think this is one of my few problems with the game that actually works in their favor. Armor is samey and unimportant, and it almost feels like your primary weapons are too, because the game's sandbox and enemy variety makes it that way. If you entered a bot mission and you were told you are only going to fight the boss with the 2 sword arms, your primary would matter much more, and there would be clear winners. But the game isn't like that, so nothing is terrible, but nothing is really interesting either. They can sell in-game power because the real power comes from the stuff they don't sell.
Which brings me to my final and most important point of this entire video and explanation. Helldivers 2 provides more content for those that don't pay than those that do pay. There is a phrase, I don't know if it has a name yet, but it's basically the concept of a player benefit and a player request. What do you add to the game that is purely for the player's benefit? And what do you add to the game that is you asking for the player's money? So long as A always overtakes B, you will keep your players very happy.
Examples of player benefits in other games are releasing new characters, making changes to maps, adding brand new unlocks, new game modes, and so on. Player requests are adding new battle passes, new armor in the rotating shop, skins for your characters, anything that you upfront say, this is new content that you need to pay for. In the case of Helldivers, we need to ask, what have they asked of us? An initial price of $40, which should not go unstated, as that is a pretty hefty asking price for a live service game, as most attempt to be free or close to free. The rotating shop with armor sets that isn't too annoying, but present. Then there are currently 3 total war bonds, each individual battle pass that you play to unlock all the benefits, with a 4th one coming out very soon.
What has Helldivers added in terms of pure player benefits? A constant stream of new maps and special effects and conditions on those maps, brand new game modes, such as the base defense one and the Termicide, new stratagems on a consistent schedule, including the Quasar Cannon, Heavy Machine Gun, and Patriot Mech Suit, brand new ship upgrades for each of the individual categories, new enemies to fight, including the bot gunships, flying bugs, and fabricator walkers, and this should not go unmentioned as well, an evolving game narrative and major order system, keeping the experience fresh by incentivizing new enemies and maps for players.
Right now, Helldivers is in the lead by a solid margin, entirely on player benefits. When another game adds player benefits, stapled onto it are always player requests. Here's a brand new character and a brand new map for Overwatch 2, but here's a brand new battle pass you have to go through in order to get part of it. Also, don't forget about the massive store refresh and all the other egregious prices that go with it. Here is a brand new map and gun for your Apex Legends, as well as a massive battle pass store refresh, and if you don't have the points, you have to grind them out or buy the new legend with your money. Halo has this particularly bad. I like playing Halo Infinite a lot right now. I find logging in for 1 to 2 games of big team battle and logging off is just a great way to take it easy, but every time I log in, I see maybe a new map or 2 every few weeks, but goddamn, you're throwing these battle passes into my face every single time, and also telling me how sad it must feel that I didn't buy this armor in time, so it just stares at me saying unavailable, grayed out on my Spartan.
Arrowhead have added new content for players at a regular cadence, and they don't need to pay for it. They add new content that other games wish they could add at this speed. When was the last time you saw a game add a new enemy, a completely brand new thing to fight just for the hell of it? When Mass Effect 3 added the Collectors faction in the multiplayer, it was fucking wild, and it was also way too hard. Holy shit, Praetorians, please stop. Plus, you can earn super credits in game. Is it a lot of credits? Not really, but it definitely softens the blow. See, I'm a full supporter of Arrowhead. I've bought all their war bonds and some of their rotating armor. I have no issues putting my money into this game because it's just that good. But if I was a $40 and done player, I can see how fun this game would continue to be. Not having to spend any money to get the new stratagems, new upgrades, new enemies to fight. And if they play well enough, they might get enough credits to get a new war bond to continue the progression. And if they don't, it just might tempt them. Enough super credits to make that $10 purchase a $5 purchase. And at that point, I can see where temptation can take hold. You can make more money treating your players like players, and Goodwill sells.
This is especially true when it comes down to the recent debacle we already discussed involving the PSN account for Helldivers 2. Now, Sony might just be extremely excited to ruin my scripts not once, but in fact twice in the exact same video, both adding and then finally pulling this PSN requirement. But when it comes to the topic of Goodwill, sometimes the player requests don't always need to be monetary. In our situation here, we as players were able to finally pull one over from Sony and get them to remove their terrible decision. Had they not removed this decision, Helldivers 2 Goodwill would have been in the absolute dumpster. However, even after going back on their idea, there is still a tentative fear surrounding this game. The fact that this was even a consideration has ruined the goodwill for a large amount of players despite it not going through and despite all of the goodwill that has been provided through the consistent and free updates for the game. Just because you're not asking me to pay anything doesn't mean I need to be happy with what's going on. So while I'm particularly bitter due to the fact that my script has had to be rewritten 3 times because of this whole thing, I am happy that we as a group won out in the end, but I have a bit more of a suspicious eye going forward. How you spend your goodwill is an art, and I think Sony might be gambling it a bit too frivolously as of late. I do love the game a lot, but like I mentioned earlier, the sandbox makes it so that the armor and weapons, the main parts of the game's war bonds, are not different enough to be interesting.
I know mentioning Destiny in a live service good video is basically blasphemy, but I'm genuinely shocked armor color shaders aren't a thing that's being sold. A lot of it looks so samey, and getting like a black and red edgelord look would make me care a lot more about what I wear. I love my Michelin Man armor. It's my favorite armor in the game, and I desperately want to shade it white so I can roleplay as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I'm terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought.
I think eventually the players will realize all the war bond stuff doesn't really matter, and they'll need to pivot, not to selling other items, but rather just selling better ones. Getting a bit more creative with it. It's not as fun getting another assault rifle, but if you gave me dual akimbo P90s Modern Warfare 2 style, I'd buy that.
If anything, they need to go harder with it. Get some silly banners in the background. Make it like the Black Ops 1 15th Prestige animated calling card level of stuff. If you want me to be excited about a victory pose, make it fun or funny. Make me jump for joy and then just fucking explode into a shower of gore like in Crab Game. 2, 1, go.
2, 1. Okay, so he fucked up completely.
Until that point, however, what Helldivers breaks in terms of general microtransaction law with their selling of in-game stuff, they make up for with a whole bunch of player benefits as opposed to player withdrawals. If you ask yourself, does my experience significantly get better if I spend money on this game compared to not? And if the answer is only a little bit, then they're doing a fantastic job. I hope other games follow in their footsteps in the future. What we have here is so special and unique, but also respects us to such a degree that if there is any game that could use a copycat, it should be this one. This is a great example of the exception to prove the rule. How the live service rush can be done right if it puts players first. Lots of AAA companies right now with their investor first mindsets can't and won't do. Another score for the independently published company. When you don't have a boardroom of investors breathing down your neck, you're able to make better decisions.
As the biggest Mass Effect 3 sympathizer in the world, I must say, despite how terrible its monetization was, what with the day one Javik DLC and the loot boxes and the multiplayer giving you only a percentage chance to unlock new stuff, etc., I will say every single multiplayer DLC in that game was free. They added new maps for free, new weapons for free, new characters for free, new modes for free, new enemies for free, new difficulties for free. Did you need to unlock some of these by buying packs? Absolutely. Was it only a chance to get the new thing? Also yes. But you could earn packs relatively quickly, and the grind wasn't the worst thing I've ever experienced. So long as you played semi-regularly, the player benefits outweighed the player requests. For the most part. I obviously have my major issues with loot boxes and the gambling issues that come with it, but the multiplayer was that good. And it was because we got more than we asked for. A few asterisks. So I say good on you, Arrowhead. You've done what feels like the impossible, and you've done so without being corporate shitheads. I am a little nervous for the future, and I don't exactly know what to expect from all of that, but I will most likely be here regardless because the game is just that fun. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I did something a little different with this style. I wanted to combine a little bit of the me and a little bit of the not me, mix a little bit of voiceover and actual in-person stuff. Let me know what you think about it. If you'd like to buy some of the merchandise, you can go to brickymerch.com. Get yourself some bricked up stuff, crew necks, as well as tri-blend shirts and lots of other awesome items. Check it all out in the description. I show my merch all the time because I genuinely think it's really, really good and I'm very proud of it. Mass Effect is next. I'll see you then.
Come on. Obviously, you're a skater.